Hello students, I am Akshay Deshpande and welcome to the biology class. And today we will be looking into the class 2 of biomolecules. And in this particular class we will be mainly concentrating on the primary metabolites and secondary metabolites. We will also look into the concept of biomacromolecules, that is, on what basis we say any molecule is a large molecule. Okay, the term macro mainly means large molecules, right? The term biomolecules mainly means they are the large molecules, right? Yes. So on what basis we can say that these molecules are large? And also we will look into one such category of biomacromolecules, that is the polysaccharides, right? So polysaccharides actually belong to carbohydrates. What we are looking over here is the carbohydrates. So I think we can start our discussion on biomolecules. So now we are having lots of chemicals in the living organisms. Okay, so we generally say that one of the important and exciting aspect of the chemistry is mainly isolating of these thousands of chemicals that are mainly present in the living organisms. Okay, mainly in the living organisms. We try to isolate all those chemicals, right? And also we have to determine, we will try our best to determine the structure of these chemicals, right? So now why do we need to isolate the thousands of chemicals or try to determine the structure of these chemicals? It is quite simple, because of their economic importance. We can say that they are quite economically important, and some of them are also important in the medicinal terms. Okay, also in the medicinal terms, some chemicals are also quite important, right? So by determining the chemical property, right, and also their structure, and if we can even try to synthesize them artificially in the laboratory. Okay, so this is going to be a great breakthrough, right? So in many cases, in many cases what happens is that plant may be the source. Plant may be the source of chemicals, right? Yes, the plants are the source of the chemicals, and the chemicals which are present in the plant body, or you can consider any living organism. Okay, you see that these chemicals are actually present in a very scanty amount. Okay, very scanty amount. So now what do we mean by a scanty amount? Very less quantity, very less quantity, right? So now as they are present in less quantity, if we have to synthesize, if we have to require them, if we happen to require them in a large quantity, so we have to go and scale up lots of plants. Okay, we have to identify lots of plants, or in some cases we have to go for plantations and all, right? And by planting the plants or the trees into the saplings of that particular plant in the plantations, and we have to wait for a long period of time until they actually produce that particular chemical, right? So we can actually avoid this method. Okay, and what we can do is we can directly extract the chemical. Okay, we can directly extract the chemical, and by extracting the chemical we can even determine the structure. Okay, we can determine the structure of that particular chemical, right? And also if we can determine the structure, we can look into the bond arrangements. Okay, so the structure will mainly tell about the molecules which are present in that particular chemical, and also we can determine the bonds, right? What kind of chemical bonds we are mainly speaking of, right? Chemical bonds, right? So what kind of chemical bonds are mainly present in that particular chemical, and by determining the structure of all that chemical present in the plant, what we can do is with this particular knowledge we can actually synthesize we can synthesize the chemical, right, in the labs. And through the course of time, what we can do is we can purify it, and we can even increase the affinity, or we can even increase the efficacy, the effectivity. Okay, so this method will result in increase in effectivity, right? The drug will become more effective, right, if we try to synthesize them artificially in the lab, because we can arrange the bond however we can want based upon the natural molecule that has been found in the plant, right? So in this way, we can see that there are thousands of chemicals which play a very important role in day-to-day of our life, which can be derived from the living organisms. Okay, so in major of the cases, the main sources of these interesting chemicals are mainly from the plants, and in some cases it is even the fungi, right? Even fungi, that is mycota, okay, even they also have certain chemicals. For example, antibiotics is a very interesting chemical that is produced from the fungi. And even the microbes, right, even the microbes do exhibit or do produce certain chemicals, right? And these certain chemicals are having human value or economic importance for the humans, right? So hence the main aim of the chemistry is to determine their particular structure and try to synthesize them artificially in the laboratory. So now in the living organisms, okay, we have discussed in the last class, in the case of living organisms, the organic compounds, we call them as the biomolecules, right? We call them as the biomolecules, right? Any carbon derived structure is called as an organic molecule, and this organic molecule in the living system we call them as biomolecules, right? And these biomolecules are called as the primary metabolites. They are called as the primary metabolites. Now, the reason why they are called as primary metabolites is because they are having some cellular function. They play an important role in the cell, right? So they may be involved in the metabolism, right? They may be involved in some anabolic reaction. They may be involved in some catabolic kind of reactions, right? So we can say that they do have certain important functions, right? They do have certain important functions in the cell body, right? So we have named various biomolecules in our last class. For example, we are having amino acids, right? We are having amino acids, and we are having carbohydrates, right? Yes, we are having carbohydrates. We are even having the proteins, right? Yes. And also we are having various others such as the lipids, right? Yes. Nucleic acids, right? Yes. And that is the nucleotides in the case of nucleic acid, nucleotides, right? And amino acids in the case of proteins, right? And carbohydrates in the sense we are mainly speaking of simple sugars, right? So we can say that these are actually called as the primary metabolites, the amino acids, the lipids, the nucleotides, which are mainly involved in the formation of nucleic acids and all of them are actually called as the primary metabolites because they are having certain cellular functions, okay? They take part in certain or one or the other cellular activity. Okay, hence we call them as primary metabolites. So we can say that primary metabolite, okay, primary metabolite is something whose function is known, right? Primary metabolite is any substance or any chemical or any organic molecule that is present in the plant body or any living organism's body whose function is actually known, and they take part active role in these cellular processes, right? Hence they are called as the primary metabolites. But in certain occasions, especially in the case of organisms such as the fungus, okay, fungal, and also in the case of plants, and also we are having microbes in the sense bacteria, what we are speaking of, right? So in the case of a fungi, in the case of a plant, and also in the case of microbes, you do find certain substances called as the secondary metabolites. Okay, now secondary metabolites are mainly whose functions are not known. Okay, their function is not known. Their function is actually not known, right? So what do they do? We don't know yet, but yet they are actually present in the body of that particular organism, right? So we can say that these chemicals, okay, they are not only few in number, they are thousands in number. Okay, thousands of we can see such chemicals are present in the body of the plant, microbes, and also in the case of fungi, right? So the metabolites or the substances which are present in the living organism's body, and yet we don't know their function properly. Okay, what role they play in the organism's body, we don't know yet. Okay, but however, one of the important idea that we do have regarding the secondary metabolite is that they play defense mechanism. Okay, they play an important role in the defense mechanism. Okay, defense role, right? See, in the case of plants, okay, in the case of plants, we see that many substances, for example, we are having the alkaloids. Okay, we are having alkaloids. Alkaloids are known to play a very important defense mechanism in the case of plants. Why? Because plants, unlike the organisms, okay, unlike the animals, they cannot move from one particular place to another place. They are fixed. Okay, they live in only one particular region. They cannot move from one place to another, right? So there may be threat from the herbivores. Okay, herbivores are the organisms which mainly feed on the plants, right? So some of the plants exhibit a defense mechanism by producing the alkaloids, and the alkaloids mainly give a toxic or an obnoxious feeling to the plants when the particular feeling to the herbivores when they feed on the plant, right? As a result, we can say that the herbivores try to avoid such plants which are having pungent or repugnant chemicals present in their body, right? So alkaloid is one such example. The next one we are having is flavonoids. Okay, now flavonoids are excellent coenzyme molecules. Okay, you will study about the flavonoids, and also one more, that is the NAD. Okay, NAD plus. You will study about that. It's also an example for electron carrier, right? So flavonoid, we are having example. The FAD is an example for the flavonoids. Remember, yes. The flavonoid, one example we are having is the FAD, and you people might have heard about FAD in the chapter that is the photosynthesis, and also in your respiration chapter, right? So they are taking place an important role in the metabolic reactions. Okay, and in the case of plants or fungi, they may be byproducts. And we are having one more, that is a rubber, and rubber is actually a polymer, right? So we all use the products that are derived from the rubber. Okay, rubber is actually a latex kind of material which is derived naturally from some of the trees, right? And in some cases you may find some essential oils. Okay, the essential oils play an important role in a regular cooking activity, or they may play an important role in the traditional herbal medicine also. Okay, essential oils. And the most popular, we are all very much aware of, is the antibiotics, right? Now in the case of antibiotics, these are mainly produced by the fungi. Okay, remember. Okay, mainly the fungi produces the antibiotics, and antibiotics, they are mainly playing an important role in the defense against the bacterial growth. Okay, so the fungi mainly produces the antibiotics to inhibit or to prevent the bacterial growth surrounding them. Okay, so this is an a product that we get from the fungi, and we classify or we consider antibiotic as we can say a secondary metabolite, right? And also you find pigments, right? Now pigments are, generally in the case of flowers, right? Yes, the flowers mainly produce the pigments, right? Yes. So now these pigments in some cases, the pigments may have antioxidant activity, right? Antioxidant activity. Now, if you try to analyze what do you mean by antioxidant activity, see, during the cellular reactions, in the cell there are reactions, right? Yes, we all know about the cellular reaction, that is the respiratory kind of reactions, photosynthetic kind of reactions, right? And generally there are some species of radicals that are formed, okay? ROS, okay? The ROS mainly stands for reactive oxygen species, okay? Reactive oxygen species. And the reactive oxygen species may cause a damage to DNA, okay? They may cause damage to the DNA, right? So these antioxidant substances such as the pigments, what they can do is they can give an electron to the ROS, right? They can give an electron to the ROS and they can stabilize or they can nullify the activity. They can nullify the activity of the ROS, and which can prevent any kind of risk or any kind of cellular damage that can be given by the ROS, right? So antioxidant activity is observed in the case of pigments, okay? And one such pigment that which is known to have antioxidant activity we are having is the Anthocyanins. Yes. Now anthocyanin is known to have an antioxidant activity, right? So now we are having one more that is called as the gums, okay? Gum is also very much what we can say similar to the rubber kind of material, and scents are mainly some sticky substances which are known to produce some good odor, okay? Pleasantful odor that we generally use the scents in the case of manufacturing or synthesis of perfumes, okay? We do apply perfume on day-to-day basis. So, and finally we are having gums and resins, okay? We are having gums and resins, okay? Now resins are mainly gum-like substances, okay? And these gum-like resistance, what we can say, substances, they are mainly involved in giving some polymeric or sticky kind of property, okay? Resins is one example, and we are having one more, that is the spices, okay? Spices is also we can say it is also an example for the secondary metabolite, okay? So as we have mentioned, their functions and roles are not yet known, okay? What do they do in the plant body? We have no idea regarding that. As of now, we don't know, or we don't have any kind of idea. But however, we have a list over here. Let me erase this. Yeah. So we are having a list of substances, okay? Mainly the secondary metabolites, right? Yes. We are having some mentioned secondary metabolites, okay? And their broad category, okay? The pigments, alkaloids, terpenoids, right? And these are all actually, we can say, the category, and we are having the examples of that particular category over here, right? So we will, this chart is again important. Remember, this chart is important because there have been multiple questions appeared regarding each of these constituents, okay? They have asked all of these what we can say the category of that particular secondary metabolite and what is an example to that particular category, okay? So don't worry about the functions. They have not mentioned any functions in your textbook, so you don't have to bother about it much, right? But however, I will try to give an some functions of certain secondary metabolites over here. So the first one we are having is pigments, right? The first one we are having is what? Pigment. And an example for pigment we are having is the anthocyanins, and one more we are having is the keratinoids, right? So now in the last class we had mentioned about the keratinoids, right? And in a few of the last classes we have mentioned of the keratinoids and xanthophylls, if you remember, okay? And beta carotene, they mainly belong to keratinoids, right? And generally the keratinoid is rich in the case of carrot, right? You know, the carrot is known to have known to have high amount of carotenoids, and we, generally many elders suggest to young children to eat more carrots because it is good for the health of the eye, right? Yes, because carotenoids mainly contain the precursor molecules or starting molecules that are required for the synthesis of the retinal. Okay, yes, retinal. Okay, you will study about the retinal and mechanism of eye vision in the case of a human physiology, that is nervous system, right? Yeah. And just a moment ago we mentioned about the anthocyanins, and we all know anthocyanins mainly exhibit what kind of property? Antioxidant activity, right? We mentioned about this just a moment ago. And similarly we are having one more, that is the alkaloids. Okay, so alkaloids are generally a substance that are mainly stored in the stem of the particular plant and also in the leaves of the plant. And one such alkaloid we are having is the morphine. Okay, the morphine, okay, if you remember morphine, you people might have studied this in the human health and diseases for the drug and abuse part of the chapter, right? So now morphine is an excellent painkiller, right? Morphine, okay, morphine is an painkiller, right? It is also called as analgesics. So it is an excellent painkiller, morphine. But however, many people abuse morphine as a drug. Okay, so many people take morphine as a drug. You also see that it is abused, drug abuse. It is also an example, morphine. And similarly, similar to the morphine, we are having one more that is called as the codeine. And codeine is also a kind of analgesic, which is mainly used to treat the pain and other associated, mainly fever, pain, body ache and all, right? It is mainly used, it is treated by the codeine, right? Now the next one we are having is the terpenoids. Okay, now terpenoids are complex oil-like structures. Okay, they are completely complex oil-like, and they are mainly organic substances. Terpenoids, they are mainly organic. Yes, and they are used to synthesize certain organic chemicals. They are used to synthesize a certain organic chemicals, right? And based upon the simple structure, we can call them monoterpenes, and second is diterpenes. See, you can easily identify the presence of the terpenoids in the plant if you take a section of a stem of a plant. Okay, if you take the main stem of the plant, you can see that in the case of terpenoids, if you take a section of a stem, okay, yes, the center, you see that generally it is dark shaded, right? The center is quite dark shaded, and that is mainly because of a deposition of terpenoids. It is mainly because of deposition of the terpenoids. And we are having some essential oils. One example that they have mentioned for the essential oil we are having is the lemongrass oil, right? The lemongrass oil is used for various, what we can say, traditional medicine, and also it does have some medicinal importance in the ancient Ayurvedic system of medicine also. Now we are having a toxins. Toxins are nothing but the poisons. Okay, and we are having two examples. The first one we are having is the abrine, and one more we are having is the ricin. Okay, now abrine, okay, abrine is quite toxic. Okay, they say that only 0.7 μg is sufficient to per kg, right? μg per kg. Yeah, this is what they use, standard terms. Μg per kg is sufficient to kill the mice. Okay, one mice can be killed by just 0.7 μg per kg, right? And in the case of humans, it ranges from around what we can say, around 20 to 20 μg to 30 μg, right? At least that is what they say, per kg is sufficient to kill the humans, right? So they say that the abrine, and one more we are having is the ricin, right? Yes, ricin. Abrine and ricin, these are one of the naturally known highly toxic substances. Okay, naturally known highly toxic or high toxins, we can say, right? So they are highly toxic to the human body. Similarly, resin, okay, and in the case of resin, they say that around 10 to 1000 mg per kg is sufficient to kill the humans, right? Around 10 to 1000 mg per kg is sufficient to kill the humans, right? So they are mainly toxins. Aberrin and resin, they are mainly toxins. The next one we are having is the lectins. So see, lectins are mainly some carbohydrate molecules, sugar attached molecules. Okay, yes. And one example for lectin we are having is the concanavalin A, right? Concanavalin A. Now it is used as a drug. Okay, it is mainly used as a drug, mainly to treat what we can say, cancer. Okay, it is mainly used to treat cancer. What kind of cancer, if you ask? It is mainly used to treat the liver cancer. Okay, it is mainly used to treat the liver cancer, hepatoma. We also call it as what? Hepatoma. And there are some drugs, okay, okay, and the example for drugs we are having is the vinblastine, and one more we are having is the curcumin. Okay, now vinblastine is again used to treat cancer. Okay, vinblastine, right over here, vinblastine, right? It is mainly used to treat cancer, right? And similarly, curcumin is also an important drug that is derived from the turmeric. Okay, it is mainly derived from the turmeric, and even the curcumin is also showing, also exhibits the anti-cancer kind of properties, right? Vinblastine and curcumin are having important function in treatment of cancer. And finally, we are having a certain polymeric substances. For example, rubber, it is a latex, as we all know, and we are having gums, okay, which is similar to rubber, okay, and they mainly provide the sticky and the stretchability kind of property if we add these gums into any kind of substance, if we are required in. And finally, we are having the last one we are having is the cellulose. Okay, cellulose, we are all very much aware, it is a polymer of what we can say, glucose, right? And the cell wall in the case of plant is mainly made up of the cellulose, cell wall, right? So these are some of the important what we can say, the substances, or the what we can say, secondary metabolite substances, and their respective examples with a certain function that we know. These functions we have determined now. Okay, so earlier when they were discovered, their functions were not known properly. Okay, so similarly, imagine there are thousands of such kind of chemicals produced in the plant body, fungal body, and also microbial body, and determining their roles and their function would be having a lot of human benefit.